Trailing Brennan's 11 1-0, the second test match could not have got off to a better start for Rabi's 11. Rolling Brennan's 11 for 49 in the opening 2 sessions to get themselves back into the series. But the wickets would continue to tumble on a bowler-dominated opening day, which curtailed Rabi's 11's advantage, and they would lead by just 17 runs as we reached the halfway mark of the match. Rabi's 11 would have Brennan's 11 in early trouble in their second innings, but in what must have felt like deja vu, Matt White, Gavin Merrifield and Brendan Scott set them another record target for victory. Rabi's 11 would at one stage be on track for victory, but a horror middle session on the third day would ultimately hand Brennan's 11 a 2-0 series lead, and they head into this third test match looking for a whitewash. Welcome to the WCG for day one of the third statewide traffic management test match between Brennan's 11 and Rabi's 11. As mentioned previously, Brennan's 11 have taken an unassailable 2-0 lead in the series, and with that, both sides find themselves in uncharted territory. Brennan's 11 looking to complete the first ever test series whitewash at the WCG, and on the flip side, Rabi's 11 are looking to avoid becoming the first team to be whitewashed in a test series. So there's plenty to play for, as the captains are already in the middle for the toss.
I toss you call. Flats, heels. Great. We'll have a bat. We'll have a bat.
Brennan's 11 skipper has won his third straight toss for the series, and for the third straight time he will bat first. And there's just one change to his side from the opening 2 test matches. Gavin Merrifield rested for this test match, and in his place comes Jack Sullivan, who has made the jump over from Matt's 11 last year and will feature for the first time this season. There's also just one change from the Rabi's 11 lineup from their last test match, but it's a big story, as George Pineros has been sensationally axed from Rabi's 11 side in favour for Todd Lavin, who was axed from the second test match for his first test performance. George Pineros was the inaugural WCG medalist last year, but after making his switch to Rabi's 11 this season, he has failed to live up to expectations this time round. It's time to get it on, as Rabi's 11 look to avoid a whitewash. Rabi Obasha leads his men out into the middle once again, with pressure mounting on his captaincy, and will be looking for a strong response from his troops. And it will be Brennan's 11 skipper who will open up the batting once again. Has already broken the record for the most runs in a test series. Will be looking to become the first man to crack the 200 mark. He needs just 17. So history beckons in this third test match. It'll be Nathan Hancock to bowl the first ball to Brendan Scott. In now, it's a shorter delivery, and Scott just lets that hit him on the body, and it's fielded by Rabi Obasha on the leg side. Good to see young Nathan Hancock rewarded for his second test performance as he takes his first over, as he bowls again to Scott, and this one's an outswinging delivery, and Scott leaves that wide outside the off stump. Hancock was a shining light for Rabi's 11 in that second test defeat, and has a promising future ahead of him. These will come into Scott again over the wicket. Again, it's an outswinging delivery, and again Scott leaves that outside the off stump. Rabi's 11 were able to dismiss Scott cheaply on the opening day of that second test match, while building up pressure with the swing ball. As Hancock bowls again to him now, it's driven down the ground and fielded by Pat McGregor. He can only parry it into Nathan Hancock's body, which was sprawling on the ground after slipping over after his delivery. Save 4 nevertheless, as Hancock will bowl again to Scott, and this is another good delivery, this one a bit straighter to Scott, and Scott just defends. It's been a good start to the test match for Hancock. He's put the pressure on Scott from ball 1, as he comes in for the final ball of his over. In now, it's a full delivery, and it's been driven down the ground, but again it's been fielded by Pat McGregor, who was near unbeatable at that mid-off region, and he saves another boundary. Pat McGregor to bowl the second over of the innings. In now around the wicket to Scott. Oh, and this one is a good delivery. It's a brute of a delivery. McGregor starts with the short delivery. Scott gets out of the way of it well. McGregor to continue to Scott around the wicket. In now, and this time it's a full delivery. It's a full toss. And Scott hammers that down the ground for 4. It's his first boundary of the innings. Brennan's 11 are off the mark. Bit of an indifferent start there for McGregor. He'll come into Scott around the wicket again. Oh, and this one hits Scott on the body. That's a good response there from McGregor. That's the line and length we've become so accustomed to seeing from the big man. He's back on track. McGregor will come in around the wicket again for the final ball of his over. It's a full delivery and Scott is forward and defends. And that ends the second over of play. Brennan's 11-4 without loss. It looks like it's going to be the skipper, Rabi Bashir, to bowl to his opposition skipper. Yeah, there's been calls after his second test defeat for him to resign. But he's got the backing of the players. But a defeat in this test match will surely see the Vultures circling. So it'll be Bashir into Scott over the wicket. And this one is a short delivery and Scott lets that go outside the off stump. It's another beautiful day at the WCG. The weather gods have turned another one on for us. Looks like ideal batting conditions out there on another beautiful strip. So Bashir will come in again to Scott. It's a full delivery and it's hit over. No, it's not hit over the fence. It's actually gone for 6. Well, that looked like it was on a trajectory over the fence, but it just catches the net and Scott survives. Nervy moment there for Scott. So he'll face Rabi Bashir, who goes over the wicket again. And this one's a shorter delivery and Scott lets that go outside the off stump. Yeah, there looks to be plenty of bounce and carry in this third test strip. It's another beautiful test cricket wicket prepared by the curator. He's done a fantastic job throughout the entire summer so far, as Bashir will continue to Scott. It's a good length delivery, and again Scott lets that go outside the off stump. Scott has had first use of each wicket so far this season. There's no surprise he's opted to bat first on what looks another belter. So Bashir will come into Scott over the wicket. It's a full delivery and Scott hammers that through cover. Rabi over pitches there to Scott, and he pays the price. Brennan's 11, no wicket for 15. Schaefer will come into Scott around the wicket. It's a full delivery and that flashes past the leg stump. That's a quick start from Schaefer. Just had the radar off there a little. Schaefer will continue around the wicket here to Scott. It's a full toss and that's well fielded there by Rabi Bashir, that mid-wicket region. And Scott pinches a single. Brilliant fielding there by the skipper who saved a certain boundary. It was Rabi's 11's fieldsmen show off a bit of their footballing skills. Very impressive. They played cricket half as good as they played football. They might have been in with a chance in this series. Ryan Schaefer in again around the wicket to Scott. And now it's a full delivery and it's driven towards Pat McGregor, who can't field it this time. And it ricochets off his body and goes to the boundary. He's unlucky there, McGregor. Scott gets another boundary. Schaefer in around the wicket for the final ball of his over. In now to Scott, and that's a good bumper. Scott is agile enough to get under it. At the end of the 5th over, Brennan's 11 and no wicket for 20. And with that boundary, Scott becomes the first man to surpass 200 runs in a test series. Fantastic achievement given the quality of bowling he's had to face. He looks in the mood for more. He's off to another solid start in this test match. The alarm bells could be ringing here for Rabi's 11. Tony Ibrahim, the bowler, 6th over of the innings. Had a decent debut in that second test match. Looking to kick on from that performance. So he'll come in around the wicket to Scott. Oh, and he's dropped this one short. And he's been hit through the cover's first delivery. That's not a great start from Ibrahim. And he's punished. Ibrahim will come in over the wicket again to Scott. And now Scott advances. He gets to it on the full. And he plays that through the mid-wicket region for another boundary. Scott's starting to feel comfortable at the wicket. Got his sights on Ibrahim. Brennan's 11, no wicket for 28. As Ibrahim will continue over the wicket to Scott. And Scott bunts that back down towards Ibrahim, who fields off his own bowling. Scott has seen off the main Rabi's 11 bowling threats. He'll be looking to cash in now. As Ibrahim will bowl again to Scott. And he advances once again, and that's exactly what he's doing. Tony serves up another full toss. And and Scott whips him through mid-wicket, so he moves along to 31. Todd Lavender come in around the wicket now to Scott. And now it's a full toss, and Scott gets a leading edge, but the luck is going with him once again, and this one goes for 6. Here it lobs over Johnson's head, who never stood a chance. Lavender to continue to Scott around the wicket, and this one's a better delivery. It's a good length delivery outside the off stump, and Scott leaves it alone. The alarm bells will be starting to ring once again for Rabi's 11. Scott looks like he's getting into his stride. Lavin bowls again around the wicket, and this is another full toss, and Scott puts this to the boundary once again. They just have not been able to sustain the pressure on Scott, and he's getting away from him. It'll be McGregor now to continue around the wicket to Scott, and that's a good delivery to start with. That's bang on the money outside the off stump. Scott leaves it alone once again. They were able to tie Scott down in that second test match by sustaining a good line and length. Got to get back to that here, otherwise this match could once again get away from them very, very quickly. The series whitewash will be looming very large. So we Pat McGregor to bowl around the wicket again to Scott. It's a full delivery, and there's an appeal there from McGregor. It just crashes into Scott's pad. Yeah, but I think he was playing a stroke. Yeah, it's an inside edge there as well. His back leg saves him. McGregor to continue around the wicket to Scott. And now it's another full delivery, but this one is driven down the ground for a boundary. They just haven't been able to hit a consistent length this morning. Scott is making them pay. McGregor to go around the wicket once again to Scott. And now it's a full delivery. It's driven down the ground once again, but this time it doesn't beat Nathan Hancock at mid-off. And McGregor gets away with another over-pitched delivery. 11 had raced along to no wicket for 46 this morning. Whereas McGregor will continue again to Scott, and that one's another full delivery. Scott just defends that on the leg side. Yeah, another half century at the WCG beckons for Scott. Here's Todd Lavin decides to get into his face and try and get him off his game. A sign of frustration creeping in for Rabi's 11. So McGregor will bowl to Scott for the final ball of his over. It's a full toss, and it's just played to Hancock for no run. Skipper v skipper. Bash will bowl again now to Scott. This one's a short delivery outside the off stump. And once again Scott leaves it alone. Scott has left well again this morning. He's let the Rabi's 11 bowlers bowl to him. He's picked off the bad deliveries. Rabi Bash will be desperate for a breakthrough here. As he continues to Scott. Oh, and just when we sing his praises, Scott chases a wide one outside off stump. That's a good delivery there from Basher. It draws Scott into a false stroke. Close call there for the Brennan's 11 skipper. Basher continues again now to Scott. And this one's a full delivery, and it's played to Pat McGregor on the offside. And you guessed it, it hasn't beaten him at that mid-off region. I'd love to know exactly how many runs he has saved in that position. It has been immense for Rabi's 11 in the field this summer. So Basher will come in once again to Scott over the wicket. In now, and oh, this one's a good delivery. It's a good length delivery. And this one strikes Scott. Yeah, this is better here from Rabi's 11. Yeah, that's a good length. And Scott is beaten. That's better from the skipper, leading from the front. As he bowls again to Scott. And this one's another good delivery outside the off stump. And Scott leaves this one alone. We're approaching lunch on the opening day. Scott's still there at the crease. 45 not out. Rabi's 11 will be desperate to see the back of him before the interval. So Basher will continue to Scott. It's a full delivery. Oh, this one's hit through the mid-wicket region again. He's over-pitched there, Basher, and Scott has punished him. He moves to 49. It'll be Michael Johnson to bowl the final over before lunch. In now to Scott, and that's a good in-swinging delivery. And Scott just defends that to Rabi Basher on the leg side. Another wicketless opening session beckons here for Rabi's 11. Johnson's in again to Scott. This one's another in-swinging delivery. This one swings in towards Scott's body. Swings down the leg side. This is another solid platform for Brennan's 11 to build upon. Scott will be looking to see out the rest of this session. As Johnson will bowl again to Scott, and again this one swings down the leg side. And Scott lets it go through to the keeper. The Rabi's 11 bowlers have been a bit wayward this morning. Scott has been able to capitalise. As Johnson will bowl again now to Scott, and this one's a full delivery. This one was on target, but Scott drives that down the ground for 4, and with that moves to 50. It's a beautiful straight drive, and the alarm bells are ringing. So the final ball of the opening session, Michael Johnson will go round the wicket to Scott. It's a good length delivery, and Scott just plays that on the offside for no run. That ends another dominant session for Brendan's 11. Brendan's 11 skipper finishes the session unbeaten on 53. His side are in a fantastic position at lunch. No wicket for 54. Ravi's 11's worst fears have materialised as they find themselves in another desperate position and in dire need of a wicket. An important afternoon session coming up next.